What's going on, guys? Geoff here from the Hookup Tackle. If you guys know by now that out here in the desert, it's pretty much time for the season, and that means trout time. So a lot of our lakes are going to be starting to get stocked with trout, hopefully, and everybody knows that when they stock the trout, a lot of these big fish start really feeding up and eating the trout profile type of swim baits. May it be like your Huddleston or, your Batesmith, your Hinkle Trouts. But today we're going to be talking about probably the greatest glide bait in the entire world that's ever been made, and that is the Deps 250. Everybody should know the Deps 250 by now. It's such an iconic swim bait. A lot of guys have them in their arsenals. I think it's such a great bait to start your swim bait journey into it, just because it is the greatest glide bait of all time that's ever been made. So today we're pretty much going to break down the 250 for you guys, the origins of it, as well as how I like to fish it, when I like to fish it, and why I think it gets bit as well as it does. So if you guys are ready, let's go.
Welcome to the Hookup Tackle. The Hookup Tackle is the world's largest showcase of megabass products, featuring baits and colors not found at any other dealer. The Hookup also offers a wide display of OSP, Evergreen, Deps, Lucky Craft, Jackal, and many more. The Hookup Tackle is owned and operated by family, is staffed by guides and verified tackle nerds who love helping anglers elevate their craft. If you're in the Phoenix area, we'd love to have you stop by our showroom and check out the wonderful world of megabass and the Hookup for yourself. If you shop online, there are almost 10,000 SKUs of megabass products alone, with hundreds of other companies and new products being added daily. So next time you're looking for that hard to find bait, that color your fish have never seen before, or maybe you just want to elevate your game, look at thehookuptackle.com.
Okay, so the Deps 250, it's been around for probably like the late to mid 2000s, and a lot of stores, including this exact store that we're in right now, used to carry the OG Deps 250s, and you'll see that term and you'll hear that term a lot throughout the swimbait community. And what that pretty much means is that the older model of 250s was made out of this resin type of foam, and that's what they call an OG slide swimmer. There's a lot of guys that think the OG slide swimmers fish a lot better than the new styles. There's definitely benefits to both the new style and the old style, but they still have the same exact drawing power and fishability that I think you can just get with any other 250. Both of them will catch fish. It's just, I guess, how you look at it, if you want to spend such and such on this or that. But it seems like nowadays they're almost the same price, but you will find some of the newer slide swimmers on forums and other Facebook marketplaces for a lot cheaper price. So there's pros and cons about the OG and the new style. The OG ones came out mid to late 2000s, but they weren't really popular. So Ben used to sell them back in the day here in shop for, I think he said like $70 to $90, but he couldn't sell them because back then nobody really had that mentality of like, this gigantic bait is going to work. So it was really, really hard to sell the Deps 250, and he had all the OG colors, like all the hard colors that nowadays we'd spend a lot of money for. You can't get them, right? So he was selling those back then. Nobody wanted to buy them. It really wasn't until Butch Brown decided to try out the Deps 250. Now, if you guys don't know who Butch Brown is, he is like the godfather of swim bait fishing, especially on the West Coast. Butch Brown, he definitely has more giant bass caught on the Huddleston and the Deps 250 more than anybody else out there in the entire world. So he's fishing a small body of water out in Southern California. He pretty much was on top of it, always ahead of everybody when it came down to swim baits. So luckily enough, I've met Butch a few times, and I've seen some of his interviews that he's done, and it's crazy how when the Huddleston first came out in 2005, Butch brought like all of them out, so nobody could have them. And well, he started with the Huddleston, and he started catching gigantic bass in the lake that he was fishing, and it kind of started his name of being a great. Swimbait Underground did an interview with Butch Brown. You guys should click it. It's a really good interview. It's a 3-part series that he explains how he found out about the 250. It was actually through the 175 from a Japanese man that was fishing on one of the shores of one of the lakes he was fishing on. Long story short, you guys should really go check out the interview. It's really good. He pretty much honed in with the 250 for quite a few years, just collecting footage after a while. And eventually he started releasing these videos of him catching really giant bass on the Deps 250. So that was probably around like 2010, 2011-ish, I'd say. Maybe late 2011. And once guys saw that, you know, this bait right here that Butch Brown was fishing was catching giant bass, all those guys in SoCal started picking up this bait. And dude, it was crazy being on social media back then in like 2012, 2013. Like, all the giant bass just seemed to be so fooled by the Deps 250 that they were just crushing it. So it seemed like every week somebody was catching a 10 to like 13 pound bass on the Deps 250. I'd be scrolling through Instagram, you know, in high school, just seeing all the pictures of these giant bass being caught on the Deps 250. And I was like, dude, I mean, at the time, I didn't have the money to buy an OG because at this point, they were going for pretty high prices and you really couldn't find them anywhere anymore. So I was like, dang, I need to get my hands on these because it seems like it is the bait right now. And at the time, it definitely was. And so it lasted for quite a few years where the Deps 250 was unmatched and the fish would just crush it full speed all the time and you just couldn't get away from it. Now, fast speed, probably 5 years ago, they brought in the new style Deps 250. They took away the foam body and they have an ABS injected kind of mold that they make, so they're able to pump out a lot more than they did back in the day. Unfortunately, since Deps saw the hype for the 250, they kept the price at a pretty high price after a while. So, but it's still definitely well worth it, especially if you know how to fish it, you fish it well and you fish it hard. This bait can easily catch you that double digit that you're so hard looking for, right? So the new ones, they have a hollow body, and I'll show you guys here in a second. Inside there's like a spring, and every time you hit it, it makes a very tight vibration every time you hit it. And so what that's supposed to imitate is maybe the heartbeat or just the movement of a fish. And every time you slide it hard, it gives off this boing, boing, and it sends off vibrations in the water. And I know a lot of guys say that it gets bit way better because of that one little added spring that is pretty innovative that I hadn't seen before in any other bait. And they say that they get a lot more bites on the new style than the old style. And I've seen it firsthand where I'm literally fishing next to Manny Chi, who is fishing this exact bait, this color and everything, and I'm fishing an OG trout, and I'm not getting anything, and he ends up catching a bass on it. So may it be that he was just in the right spot, right position, making the right cast, and I wasn't in the right zone. I don't know, but firsthand, I saw that this bait still gets bit. And I know a lot of guys swear by the OGs that they're way better. And like I said, there's benefits to both. The OG ones, you can tune them a lot better or tune them at all, where you can't really mess with this one, where you can change the hinges on the old one. This one's fixated. So if you try and screw it, you're going to crack the bait and you're going to get water in it and you're screwed. But with the old ones, you can tune the hinges so you can have this further back or further up to make it a tighter S motion, or you can have one that swims like this. So I like that. The OG ones, they don't nose up as much as the new ones as well, but that can be an easy fix as well, just by adding more weight to the front of the cavity up here. But overall, it's cool that Deps is able to pump out more of these in a sense, as well as do different colors and stuff like that. Butch Brown still catches bass to this day on the 250 as well. So it's a very consistent bait. And it seems like, obviously, everybody started throwing the Deps 250 after a while, and the fish kind of wisened up to it. So they're not going as crazy as they once did, but it sure still has that drawing power, and it still has that capability of catching really big fish. You just have to fish it differently than how everybody else is fishing it these days. So that's kind of the backstory of how the 250 has the reputation as the best glide bait in the world. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can fish the 250. Now, you can literally just go burn and bank with it. You can just throw it up in the shallows, work it hard, or you can just swim it back, give it a few kicks every now and then. You can fire it out over points or down into trees and let it sink down and fish it slower like that. There's so many different ways you can fish the 250. That's what makes it so good. And you can fish it, you know, how Butch Brown fishes his is he throws it out there, lets it sink down, and he just reels in the bait. And every now and then he's going to give it like a little kick. That's it. That's how Butch Brown caught all of his giant fish. But Manny Chi, who's caught an also really big fish on the 250, he works his a lot more aggressively. It's slide, 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 and this thing's cutting back and forth, and that's how I feel a lot of guys fish this bait, is that hard side to side. Personally, that's how I fished mine, and that's how I caught a lot of my fish. But it does seem like nowadays how I fish it is kind of how Butch Brown fishes it, is where I'll throw it out there, I'll let it sink down to 15 to 20 feet, and just reel it, and then every now and then just give it a nice kick. And it's got that S motion, and what that kick does is it just goes out and comes back in. And you're supposed to get bit on that little kick out, and that's how Butch got a lot of his bites. Unfortunately, I'm not Butch Brown. I don't get a lot of bites doing it that way. So, but I definitely think that once you start showing this bait down to fish that haven't really seen it down there before, I think you can get a lot of bites. Because, like I said, a lot of dudes will just burn bank with this. Probably 80% of guys are just going to be fishing it 10 feet and up, right? And so after a while, those fish will get accustomed to seeing this profile of bait and the swim of it up there, you know, on the surface, to where they're like, all right, we know, we've seen it around, that has to be fake. But once you throw the same exact thing down in, you know, 15 to maybe even 30 feet, really close down to the bottom, then the fish are like, well, that kind of looks familiar, but normally we're used to seeing that up there, so let's bite it because this has to be the real thing. And so that's where the concept of actually sinking it out there, putting it in the danger spots, is going to get you a lot more bites on this bait. So the Deps 250 is 10 inches long, weighs around 6 ounces, and the setup that I like throwing with the Deps 250 is something a little bit on the faster side. So I'm fishing just really any 8-foot extra heavy swim bait rod, 8-foot to 8'6" extra heavy rod, something that's rated from 2 to 8 ounces. That sweet spot should be that 6 ounce range, which is the weight of this bait. I'm fishing normally anywhere from 20, at least recently I've been fishing 20 pound. I used to fish 25 pound, but 20 pound works just fine. I think it gets a really nice swim out of the bait on the lighter and thinner line, like the 20 pound fluorocarbon. And I like fluorocarbon just because, like I said, nowadays I really do like just firing this thing out and letting it sink down. The fluorocarbon is going to help sink that bait down there a little bit faster and keep that bait down there in the strike zone a little bit longer. So that's why I opt for the fluorocarbon these days. Now, the stock hooks that come on the 250, I don't know if they're legit owner ST58s or not. Back in the day, they used to have fake ones that weren't real owners, and they would bend out really, really easily. So I don't trust it. So I normally always swap out the hooks for, a lot of guys know that I like fishing the quads. I normally fish a 1 or a 1/0. 1/0 just is a little bit bigger. I know a lot of guys will look at the 1/0 and think that's way too small of a hook for such a massive bait, but the quads, their hookup ratio is incredibly good. If you guys don't really like quads, and I know a lot of guys don't, ST36s, again, size 1 or 1/0 are gonna do just fine. This is my second favorite hook of all time, so 36s or the quads will do just fine for the Deps 250. Now, the reel is another really important part of the Deps 250, and you will hear so many different opinions about it. Some guys like the slow gear ratio reel, some guys like the faster one, and it's funny because, you know, fishing with Manny Chi and seeing Butch Brown catch fish, they're on totally different opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes down to how they really like fishing the 250. Chi likes to fish his pretty fast, like hard, just 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, like really hard. Just get that bait side to side as fast as it possibly can, to where it looks like it's a fish that is scared for its life. It's trying to figure out which direction it should go, and then the fish eats it, right? So Chi likes to fish his on a really fast reel. Nothing under 6'4" to 1 for him. I think a lot of times he likes to fish like a 7 or even an 8 if he can get away with it. I felt the same way. I fish mine nowadays on a Daiwa Z 2020. It's the faster gear ratio reel that is from Deps, or the collab is with Deps. It's 8 to 1 gear ratio reel, I believe, or 7. It's one of those. It's a fast reel, and I like having that ability to be able to fish it fast when I want to. If I'm burning a bank, going up to a point before I make a bomb cast on the point, I'll let it sink. But at the same time, I'm able to slow it down, pick up line, and then give it like a quick little speed up every now and then. Now, Butch Brown, he likes to fish his on round reels, which are normally under that 6'4" to 1. So he's fishing his pretty slow. I mean, I've never seen him, really work the bait. It's more just nice slow and then just nice kick. So there's no really right or wrong way to fish a Deps 250. There's many different ways to fish it. It just depends on what your fish like to react to more, and if you have the patience to sink your bait out in 30 feet and hope for a bite. So color is another thing that I think should be talked about. A lot of guys think that you have to have a trout color or a shad color for when they're chasing, shad or trout, but I have buddies that fish this exact color that get absolutely crushed. So to me, nowadays, I don't think color matters as much as action and flash. I think flash and action are the two biggest factors, way over color. I mean, we see it time and time again. I mean, dudes are throwing a chartreuse crankbaits or whatever, and it's like, well, no fish out there is chartreuse, but it gets bit, right? So it's all about putting your bait in the right spots and just having the right action in the movement and just placing it right is what will get you bites. So a lot of guys get hung up on color so much, which color can really catch the fisherman more than the fish a lot of times. But a bait that swims good, no matter what color it is, will get bit. As long as you fish it correctly and it's a good swimming bait, you're good to go. So don't get too hung up on color. We have quite a few different colors that a lot of guys probably wouldn't really like to fish, but there's definitely some gems in some of those colors out there. Like this one especially is a great color. Okay, so that is the breakdown of the Deps 250. Truly a very iconic swim bait. Everybody who is, whether or not they're into swim baits or not, knows about it, has seen it, has probably wanted one. And it's just such an awesome bait, and it's cool to see how it came from nothing to what it is now, and guys are still crazy for this bait. So awesome bait. I have quite a few of them myself. I probably don't fish them as much as I used to, but I still just like having them in my collection, just to have a 250. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll leave links down in the description below for the baits, the line, and the hooks if you guys wanted to check them out. It is the season, so you might want to get some before they're all gone. So thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out.